Howdy doody, folks, and I hope all you Hopalong Cassidys out there know what time it is now that you've tuned into the same bat time and the same bat channel. Welcome back to Rogue Reviews with your one and only favorite red-haired, silver-tongued devil with a heart of gold and a chip on not one, but both shoulders. And I'm here today to have the distinct privilege to talk to you about one of the wildest movies I have seen in my entire life, and not just in 2014, but the epic Birdman. And wow, I have to say right off the bat that this film was an absolute pleasant surprise in every regard, and just completely took me by storm, because to tell you the truth, I didn't really know what to expect of it. Wasn't really sure what audiences were in for, and I just got completely sucker punched with the 1-2 haymaker combo of this scathing black comedy on the epic scale of like Kurt Vonnegut etched onto the silver screen in a way that just gave this very just harsh and incredibly satirical indictment of everything that has to do with Hollywood. Like, basically it's about a washed up actor named Riggin who used to play a big blockbuster type superhero named Birdman, and he's essentially trying to reinvent himself by trying to get taken more seriously as a Broadway actor by adapting a famous American classic play as well as starring in it, and everything's just falling apart. Everything's bursting at the seams. The whole thing's just collapsing in on itself. He has to hire some hotshot actor played by Edward Norton, who plays an incredibly condescending asshole that's a completely different shining personality on stage. Total diva. We'll get to him a little bit later. And essentially, Riggin is just trying to save his whole career. And whoever cast this movie is a genius, because getting Michael Keaton to play this part, especially after the explosion of comic book films in the last about 10-15 years, after this guy was the original Batman, was just a stroke of genius. Like, not only was this guy one of the very first superheroes, live-action superheroes ever on film, but before Birdman, I honestly can't think of a movie I saw him in where I was blown away since probably Jackie Brown, and that came out in 1997. But meanwhile, you want to talk about the reflexive nature of art, like reflecting life, and life reflecting art. In Birdman, it was almost just like this was you looking into the actual mind of, like, personalities that these people were dealing with. I don't think it was necessarily autobiographical 100%, but it definitely comes off as incredibly raw and very real. And there are moments that are like surrealistic, incredibly dark and daunting, and moments that are just flat out hilarious. And beyond giving Michael Keaton giving the performance of a career, like, oh my god, not only is this one of, like, his best roles, this is one of the best roles I've seen in a Hollywood film in decades. But on top of that, the supporting cast was electrifying. Like I mentioned, you have Edward Norton playing the perfect asshole, Mike Sharp, who's just this like brilliant stage actor, but behind the scenes you just want to reach through the screen and slap this guy across the face, because the only time he can really portray any sincere emotion is when he's faking it as somebody else on stage, and he's pretending to be another person, and that's his way of kind of coping with being such a cynical prick. He's just like using acting as an escape, and everyone knows it, and so does he. And he is just like, completely alone in the world and has no idea how to really get along with people. And then Emma Stone plays Riggin's daughter, and she's just like this disenfranchised young kid who just got out of rehab and is trying to figure out her own place in the world and help her dad while he's going through this incredibly, like, wild, weird, and also wondrous part of his career, because he's basically starting from scratch. He's coming from the beginning again. And there's some birds for you right there. But it's kind of amazing just to see Emma Stone be one of the very emotionally accessible characters in the entire film, because she's in no way really related to show business beyond being Riggin's assistant. And, you know, she's kind of the only one that's really there for him and sees him for who he is, not just as an actor, but as a person. And on top of that, you have the incredible Naomi Watts, who you're used to seeing in, you know, like big time dramas, like, you know, the David Lynch movie Mulholland Drive, which is an absolute mind bender where she's like lost in a dream the entire time. Or you're used to seeing her in like, you know, the Russian Mafia epic Eastern Promises. But here, she just plays this like, you know, total heartbroken actress that wants to be taken seriously and is giving the performance of a lifetime on stage. But, you know, most people know her as this big media brat who is more popular on the cover of tabloids than she is on the screen or on stage. And so she's just like, you know, literally weeping because she has no idea how to pick up the pieces after her soul's been shattered once she realizes that nobody can take her seriously. But beyond that, Amy Ryan, as you might know from The Wire, as well as a couple other, like, you know, small supporting roles in like movies like Escape Plan with Sylvester Stallone, and, you know, a few little pickup roles here and there. She plays Riggins' wife, and she is just fantastic. I think she's in two scenes in the whole movie, once at the very beginning and once kind of at the end. And yeah, she's really there just to like basically provide all kinds of backstory and throw some context at you about, you know, how bad this guy's life really is and where he's really coming from, because everybody's there, you know, treating him like the little engine that could, when she's really, you know, there to make sure that he doesn't go bankrupt and his life doesn't fall apart any more than it already has, because people don't realize he's already hit rock bottom. And so in a weird way, Birdman's this crazy cool story about redemption and, you know, the underdog, like, you know, just saying damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. And the cinematography in this film is what's really going to win a lot of people over, because it's hard to believe it's directed by the same guy that did 21 Grams and Beautiful and Babel, and you're used to seeing him do these really dark dramas, but he does bring out a lot of the darkness in the comedy of within the story. But there's a lot of abstract train of thought, stream of consciousness, surrealism, and the cinematography certainly reflects that, because it's bobbing and weaving in and out of buildings. There's a lot of long, continuous tracking shots, some of which are like 15 minutes long. How they even pulled it off is just mind-blowing to me. And it just continuously keeps the momentum and the dark, like, domino effect of the story pushing through it all the way to the end. And in the end, you know, it kind of leaves you with this really heartfelt, open-ended kind of conclusion where, you know, you can really take it or leave it. You can really, you know, if you want to go for the glass half empty and be a little dark and bitter and cynical, as a lot of the parts in the movie are, go right ahead and go for it. But there's, like, you know, a way of looking at it to me where he kind of just embraces his past and accepts the fact that, yes, he was Birdman. He was a big celebrity. Now he's just an actor. And, you know, it's got a kind of endearing quality to it. But all in all, it's, you know, deserving of a lot of its praise. Is it going to be easy for a lot of pretentious hipsters to, like, you know, call it the only art film Hollywood's ever done? Of course. And in many regards, like, you know, it could very well be construed that way. But, you know, I just think it's incredibly creative. It's got an amazing original concept. It was brilliantly executed in an incredibly daring way. And I just think that Hollywood needs more movies like this. And I don't mean, like, dark comedies necessarily. I just mean more movies with their own original stories and told in a bold, brave new way that audiences aren't used to. Sure, parts of it made you feel uncomfortable, but I think that's only because nobody has ever really seen a lot of movies like it, and I think that's great. It's kind of refreshing and really inspiring to see that once in a while. And, you know, for all of you folks out there that think there's nothing left to see as far as film goes, do yourself a favor and treat yourself to Birdman, even if you just want to get an opinion on it and figure out what some of the hype was about. But for, you know, any of you would-be filmmakers and actors and directors and, you know, writers and whatnot, you're bound to get a great kick out of it because of the way it just tears apart life behind the scenes. And anyway, that's all for me and all for Birdman on this segment of Rogue Reviews. Thank you for tuning in once again, and I'll be hitting you up with a bunch of other things, including my review of American Sniper and some other reviews for, films that have been nominated for a bunch of Oscars next week. In the meantime, take it easy, rogues, and I will see you on the flip side.